Okay, we're going to do our precious metals update. It's the end of May, May 31st, Tuesday night. So we have a complete May candle now. We'll look at gold, silver, GDX. I have to say things do not look great. You know, we had a slightly bullish picture sort of forming in the last, literally a few days, and that's been kind of wiped away. And so we'll start on the daily chart. So to orient us, the last daily cycle was 33 days, right? We bottomed on day 33, and then we had our high on day 6. That was May 24th. And so today that's opening right now is actually day 12, which will end up being Wednesday, right? So we had our high on day 6. This was day 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and now we're opening day 12. Here's the important thing though. This day right here, right? Once we formed that high on that day. And so once we went below the low of that day, that actually created a swing high. So the low of that day was 1849.42, right? So once we traded below there, we had a swing high on the board. And more importantly, today we've just kind of made another more extreme swing high on the daily level. And based on the way this candle is opening today, it looks like we're set up to have some bearish follow through, right? So the low from yesterday was, or today, Tuesday, was 1835, right? And so we're now already below that. You can see we're at 1834 as I speak. And so this is just another daily low. So it's creating another swing high below what's already a swing high. So think about that. That's just a lower low, right? And this swing high is a lower high. So not great. And that's the daily chart. More importantly, because you think about multi-time frame analysis, the higher time frames are more important. We actually have a swing high on the weekly level as well. And that's much more important, much more significant. So the low from last week was 1840. 11 cents, right? And so we're trading right now right under 1835, so we're below that. I mean, you can literally see this candle, right? You can see how this is the candle from this week, this is last week's candle. And thinking more bigger picture, our week we I should say we had a weekly swing low in place when we were above this high here. We're now not above that high anymore, and we're on the verge of failing. And so I would go as far as to say precious metals are short here. Again, so this is your weekly swing high. You see this candle? This candle marks a high. Once we went below that low, that's your swing high on a weekly level, which suggests to me that either the weekly cycle is still in decline, so this was not your weekly cycle low on week 22, right? So you're going to get another, weekly cycle low. So this would be week 24 in that case. Or this was a new weekly cycle, and we're now starting to roll over after week 1, which would be incredibly bearish. I don't know that we want to jump to that conclusion. And if you think about the monthly, we're going to start as an inside month just on account. Whenever you have a candle that has huge wick, you're generally going to start as an inside month. And we would need to trade below 1787 to make a new monthly low. And if the bearishness we're seeing here continues to follow through, you would absolutely expect to trade below that level. And if anything, you'd want to really watch to see if we can hold close to that level and not completely collapse. And so moving to silver, and I'll just spoiler alert, it's the same picture for all three of these instruments we're going to look at. So silver, so not the same exact count, but the same idea, right? So silver made a high on day 10. So while gold made a high on day 6, silver managed to make a high on day 10. And it's like, you want to be optimistic about this. You still can't, it could still turn around for sure. But I noted in my previous video, you'll see it, as always, my previous videos in the link. This has the potential of being a bear flag because you have these smaller candles all in, this is just kind of hesitation. But more importantly, to go with the same theme as gold, this day 10 was your high. And so once we went below the low that marked that high candle, so that was below 2194, right? We made a swing high, and now we're getting bearish follow through. We have a This day was just consolidation. We just stayed inside, and now we're getting the big down day. Green so far for today. I mean, we'll see. We'd have to trade above 21.98, the high of this candle, to get really excited, which is why it's kind of a tough hurdle to climb. As you make these swing highs, think of it as like you're getting buried in a hole that's deeper and deeper. And that's your daily chart. Weekly, again, same picture as gold, but different count. That's actually more important. So definitely have a swing high on the board for the weekly. We still have 3 days left in the week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So a lot could change. We could have a rally and this turns into a wick, and we even make a new high and this becomes a bullish green candle. It could happen. It could totally happen. But you have to think about the probabilities, right? Again, the lower, as you make each lower low, you're sort of burying yourself under more dirt, maybe even adding water, and you can't swim, if you want to say that, right? And so instead of this being a low, weekly cycle low on week 15, very possible, probably actually quite likely, that this is actually just week 18, right? So this was week 16, 17, 18, and we're continuing to decline into a daily cycle, or excuse me, a weekly cycle low, which, as you can see from these last ones, tends to last in the high 20 week range. But you certainly have your exceptions, as I noted in the previous video, like a week 14 low for the COVID crash. And even this previous low is a little bit squirrely, like was this the low, was this a low? No matter what it was, this would still be kind of an early cycle low. And looking at the monthly really quickly, same idea as gold, inside month on account of the wick. In this case, a trade below 21.52 would give you your monthly swing high. That's your signal of or potentially much more downside. It could also obviously create a, false breakdown. And so finally for GDX. So GDX actually created a bearish outside bar. This is the same pattern that I say uranium created. So looking at CCJ, I'll see if I get to a video about that tonight. But so for GDX, we made a high on day 8, right? So notice, gold made a high on day 6, silver made a high on day 8, or excuse me, day 10. GDX is making a high on day 8. That high was 32.95. Today, we got to 32.92. So we came, excuse me, we came literally within 3 cents of that previous high on day 8, today on day 12. And then we failed, right? Like we failed spectacularly, right? So much so that we made a bearish outside bar. That's a really bad sign. I mean, that's a false breakout, right? In this case, a false breakout because it's a fake out to the upside. Because it looked like we were going higher and then we just kind of failed through. And which is the same pattern, as I mentioned, we see with uranium. And so if nothing else, you think about these 3 data points, GDX, silver, gold. This is probably one of the more bearish signs that's telling you this is setting up for momentum to the downside, which tells you something about silver and gold as well. And so with the weekly cycle here, it's the same count as silver, right? So it's potentially week 18. We do have a swing low in place from week 15, but at this point it's looking like it's going to fail. But it's also important to note all of this action the last 3 weeks is happening within the range of that big down week, the week of May 9th. So we're still inside that range. So that candle has a high at 33.57 and a low at 29.66. So a pretty, almost a $4 range for like a $30 ETF. It's a pretty big range on a weekly candle. And so we've been inside that this whole time. And so it's going to be interesting. I think we'll need to get outside of this range to the downside if that's where we're going to continue. But I see more downside here. At the same time, great clear levels. So I think if you're inclined, puts could be very profitable.